Hello. Hi, my name is CompleatAfrica. I'm a mediator based in Nairobi, Kenya. During this time of COVID pandemic and isolation, a lot of people have started using Zoom. And as I studied the process with a view to getting mediation clients, I realized we needed a simple how-to video to explain to people how they are supposed to actually utilize and work on Zoom and as participants in a meeting or a mediation. So this is my easy guide on how to use Zoom. Welcome. Zoom initially, you need to go to zoom.us, which will guide you from your web browser if you're using a laptop or as I am using a desktop computer, which will allow you to download the actual software. If you take a look, it gives you a lot of options right here at the top. But what you need to do on your first meeting is to download the actual software. And if you take a look over here on the second item from the right, the first one down on that menu is Download Zoom Client. That allows you to download it into your computer and to run it. If, on the other hand, you happen to be using your phone, you go to Google Play, search for Zoom, and you should be able to see this specific result when you search for Zoom. And this will be Zoom Cloud for meetings. You can then, I already have it, so it will ask me to update it, but you should have the option to install it. And that will enable you to run Zoom on your cell phone. Once you have done that, you will find two different things. Number one is the Zoom will appear on your toolbar. This thing down here, the one that looks like a camera, and I'll blow it up like this, is actually the Zoom button. The reason I want to emphasize this is that if you ever find yourself switching between programs, etc., and you find that you've lost the Zoom camera, you need to double click on this button or press on this button depending on what your instrument is, and it will bring you back to the Zoom application. We have had situations where people are there, you can see them and you can hear them, but they are not seeing the Zoom application on their desktop because it has been minimized or because it has gone behind another program which they were using. So you should have the toolbar. It can be along the bottom, it can be along the top. In this my case, it is along the left hand side of the screen. And down here you can see it has a Zoom button. Once you have installed Zoom, you will have a sign in. Now, if you are more comfortable working on your browser, you can sign in from there, put in your own email address, and I think everybody's familiar with how you sign into apps. Some of them you can sign in with Google or Facebook, and that's also an option which you might choose for because it's quite easy. Once you have done that, you sign in. Once you have registered and you've gotten the confirmation email and you have started it up again and you have signed in, you will then move on to the actual welcome page for your Zoom application. Your Zoom application allows you to do 4 different things. It allows you to have a new meeting where you're hosting. It allows you to join a meeting, and in this particular case, if you're joining a mediation or you're joining a meeting which is being hosted by somebody else, you will be able to press the join button. The share screen and the scheduling, I think we'll leave for another time, because at the end of the day, this is just how you're supposed to participate in a meeting you've been invited to. When you press join, you will be given the option of a meeting ID number, which is a 10-digit number, which allows you to apply to join the meeting. If the meeting is open, you will not be required to give a password. But if the meeting asks you for a password, this should have been sent to you in the invite. And it is a 6-digit number, which means that people are prevented from entering it at their own will. You will then have two different options. One, the host might allow you to join the meeting immediately, or the host will have you in a waiting room where once he has seen you, he has verified you are there, or maybe he's waiting for everybody to be there so they can all be admitted at the same time. He will allow you to join the meeting. In which case, you end up having a page or something that looks like this. Initially, you will only see this section, which is the actual cameras of the people who are attending the meeting, the actual view of the people who are attending the meeting. The thing you have to realize is that this is what you call a gallery view. There is another view, which is like this, which shows the person who is speaking as the biggest view, and the others along the top, which essentially allows you to be able to focus on the person who is actually speaking. And if you prefer to be watching everybody, then you go back to this view. Once you arrive in the meeting where you're seeing just this particular section, forget about these two, I'll explain those later, the panels on the right. You will find at the bottom left, you have two buttons. One of them is a mute and unmute button. The mute and unmute button allows you to switch off your microphone while you're attending the meeting. Sometimes this is good, especially if you have, like my case, there's a dog right now barking in the background. And if I wasn't talking, I would want to prevent this from interfering with what anybody else was saying. So I'd press the mute button. The other thing you have to be aware of is sometimes when you log on or when you join the meeting, it is automatically muted. You have to then be able to know how to unmute the button so that you can be heard. And also, if there are any other issues relating to how you're appearing on the screen or whether there's any other issues, you can only be helped if people can hear what you're saying. So, bottom left, there is mute and unmute button. When it's crossed like this, it means you are muted and nobody can hear you. When you press it and you remove the bar through the microphone, it means everybody can hear you. The other thing across here is an up arrow. If your system has one or more microphones, you will need to press that to enable it to choose one of the microphones, or to allow you to do what is usually the default, which is the same as the system. The same thing happens for the video. If your laptop has a rear camera and a front camera, and for some reason it's using the rear camera, you have to use this to access it. I have had situations where a person has another application which is using the camera. You need to press this button here to select camera. Here is stop video. When you set up your account, there is a place where you can actually put a photo of yourself. If you feel like you do not need to be seen during the entire meeting, or you need to step away and you don't want people looking at your empty chair or hearing what's going on in the background, or somebody comes and interrupts you, you can press stop video. That will give everybody either a blank screen if you do not have a photo or a logo or whatever you have put when you signed into the system. The next thing you might need to look at is manage participants. In My view here, I have managed participants because I am the host. You, as a participant in the meeting, will only see participants, which opens up a list over here on the right to show you who is there. It also shows you to the right of it whose microphone is on and whose video is on. So you can see somebody might be there and their microphone is off and their video is off, which means you'll just see a big black screen with their name at the bottom. At the bottom of this, you will see a place which has for you something saying raise hand and rename. If, for example, you have come from a social meeting beforehand where you had named yourself as Snuggles because that happened to be your private nickname in school, you would have your name written here as Snuggles. You might not want that with your friends and your people who are actually in a business environment. So you will have a button here to rename, and then you can put your name. As you can see, mine here is Kimutai, and I have listed it there. The other one is raise hand. During the course of a meeting, while guided by the host, you may want to make a point. Instead of actually starting to speak and interrupting the other person, you can raise your hand, which lets the host and everybody else know that there is a point you're willing to make. Usually stay to be guided by the host on this, but it's an easy way of letting everybody know that you have a comment to make. The next thing which you might want to know is group chat. Group chat is pressed by this button over here, which allows you to open up a chat room here. It can be attached to the page, which is what I like because it's actually fixed, or it can be free floating, which in the event you have many people and maybe you want to type a long thing, or maybe you actually want it to pop out so that you can look at all your past chats, you can do it through here. If you click down here at the bottom, you are able to send a chat message to everyone. It's a nice way of making a point without interrupting the person who is speaking. You could also press the button everyone and it will drop down a list of names of the participants in the meeting. So if you want to tell the host, well, look, it looks like I might need to leave after 5 minutes. I have another appointment, or excuse me, I am going out for a coffee. You can do that. Up here on the right, you have speaker view and gallery view. This is gallery view. The one I'd shown you earlier on is speaker view. And as you can see, once I have chosen speaker view, gallery view comes back here. There are at present only two options. Top left-hand side, up here gives you the information on that particular meeting. In case you want to save that information, or in case you want to be able to share the information with somebody, if you press on the top right, it gives you the name of the person who is hosting the meeting, the meeting ID, which is that 10-digit number I told you about, the name of the host, and also the password. The invitation URL is something you can give out to somebody, so with one click, they can enter the actual meeting. This is the panel at the bottom. It allows you to do a mute or unmute video, as I've mentioned to you before. There's an invite whereby you can invite somebody through email to join the meeting. Participants, it shows you how many people are there, and when you press on it, it brings up that panel I showed you on the right hand side. Share is something for a more detailed presentation, and that one we will not include now. Chat has the panel I told you about on the bottom right. Record is something you're able to do. The host is able to dictate or put on the software restrictions on who can record the meeting. For obvious reasons, if it's a confidential matter, you will not really want everybody recording it. However, if the host decides it is something worth recording, or people agree that they want to record an agreement or something to that effect, you can press record. It will show up on the top left-hand side that a record button will be there. So everybody should be aware. If you see that record button there, just be aware that you are being recorded, and the person who is a host has the option of saving it on their computer or in the cloud. And we finally come to leave meeting. The host can shut down the meeting at any time. If, for example, you have another commitment or you decide you no longer wish to participate, you press this button. It will close the meeting. It will not close it for everybody else. If you are the host and you have not designated a co-host, it will close the meeting down permanently.